All right, guys, I want to welcome everybody to our Thursday night conversations with Commodores. We've been doing this for almost a year, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am with all the support, the comments, the love, how many people tune in each week. And what we try to do is bring Commodores from all different generations and decades, and we're just telling a little bit of the oral history of our program. And I'm so pleased to have one of the more recent graduates, Sam Dobbs, with us out of Atlanta, with us this evening. Sam, thanks for stopping by, and it's good to see you.
Man, it's a pleasure to be on your show. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. For you older guys who may not know Sam, you're going to get to know him in the next 45 minutes or so. And I promise you, you're going to want to follow him on social media. He is a multi-talented jack of all trades kind of a guy, and I wish he'd have been one of my teammates back in the day. I bet we'd have had some fun. But Sam, thank you for stopping by, and I want to, before we kick it way back, I say way back, you're so young. You're in your 20s. Tell us what you're up to these days. I know you're in the Atlanta area. You just graduated, but tell folks a little bit about what you're currently doing.
Yeah, so like you said, I just graduated a couple years ago, back in 19, and really just kind of in that transition phase, going from college to career mode. Plan is to and The same plan is to play in the NFL. That's the goal. That's the dream. And I had a shot with the Falcons. I was with the Falcons early summer 2019, and been training ever since to earn a spot wherever that may be. And so still continuing to train. I'm here back in Atlanta, where I'm from, where I grew up. And so that's the story on the football side of things. And then I got a few extracurricular activities going on. I'm really passionate about a bunch of things, and from music to movies to acting to filmmaking, you name it. So got a lot of things under my belt and trying to stay busy, but it's I guess with COVID going on these days, it's there's a little bit more time that I have to kind of tackle everything at once. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, it's that off the field interest that you have is where you caught my attention about 2 years ago. I saw one or two of your vlogs about riding around town in Nashville on your bike, and it just seemed like it was a great escape from, I guess you call it the pressures, the stress of school and football and everything. But you seem to have found a healthy balance there. Has your artistic side, has the arts, has just getting out and doing non football related things, has that always been part of your childhood and all the way through now, or is it something you just picked up in the last couple of years?
It's kind of been there ever since the start. I think with my I have two sisters, and I have two parents that have always been kind of outgoing, and so it kind of really started young. And I've always been into all kinds of sports, not just football, but just playing out in the yard, whatever it is, wiffle ball or you name it. But and then just riding bikes, playing in the woods, all that kind of stuff, kind of turned into more of a lifestyle, which I really like getting out and just finding something new. Just keeps it fun, keeps it fresh. So yeah, I've always kind of had that lifestyle, if you will. Just kind of definitely enjoying life as it goes. It's so short, so you might as well enjoy it while it's here.
Absolutely, and that really comes across in those videos that you shoot. That's where I really came to appreciate some of that part of your personality. And as a kid growing up, did you? I know you graduated from a very small high school in the Atlanta area. Did you grow up there, or did you move there during a certain period of childhood? Tell us a little bit about your origin, your beginnings.
Yeah, so I grew up. I was born and raised here in Atlanta, west side of Atlanta, small town called Douglasville, and it's yeah, I mean it's done the job. It's like I said, it's a very small town, so you tend to run into people a lot, quite often down the street. And but I ended up going to a small private Christian school, all the way up until eighth grade. Eighth grade was my last year at this specific school called Harvester, and but then that's kind of the tipping point when I started getting serious about sports and kind of like figuring out what I want to do in college and stuff like that. So I really needed a school that would kind of push me athletically and academically to get me where I wanted to be. So I chose to transfer to a different high school, which is Landmark Christian School over in Fairburn, Georgia, which is about 25-30 minutes from where I live here in Douglasville. And that still a small private Christian school. I graduated with about 64 people or something like that, and which is pretty small compared to a lot of these bigger public schools out there for sure. But yeah, that's kind of the story of my schools growing up. And but yeah, like I said, been here in Atlanta ever since I was born, and probably lived in maybe 2 or 3 houses. I only remember the current one that I'm in right now, but yeah, it's been here all my life, and it's a nice place, and I'm sure we'll get into this later in the conversation, but as far as like with extracurricular things like acting and films and stuff like that, Atlanta is a great place for that kind of stuff. A lot of productions are happening these days in Atlanta. It's always been like Hollywood, LA, and but the last few years Atlanta has really popped off for that. So it's really kind of convenient, heading down the street to wherever I need to be for an audition or whatever it may be, So it's
Yeah,
it's a nice little place to live.
the Atlanta metro area certainly has boomed for that industry, that's for sure. And guys, gosh, we had a whole bunch of folks roll in already. Of course, I'm talking with Sam Dobbs. We got OJ Fleming, Corey Harris, Russell Nicole, Tyler Unzicker, Jim Arnold have all stopped in to say hello and checking out Sam and our conversation here. Sam, growing up as a kid, were you the kind of kid who played all the sports just depending on the season, or did you concentrate really just on football? How did you lean that way, sports wise?
Well, I started out, well, first of all, my dad actually played football in college. He played at Auburn back in the 80s as well. And so, I was always kind of big on football. I've always liked the sport. But my parents never put the pressure on me to play anything that I didn't want to play. So it was really always up to me, to do what I wanted to do, and which is great. And I commend them for that. But yeah, I started playing, the first sport I remember doing is like, probably baseball, like Pinto League baseball, Pee Wee or whatever you call it, Pinto League. So that was probably one of my first sports, and then I started playing basketball and some soccer and let's see, some swimming, some tennis. So I've kind of just experimented around with kind of whatever was available at my school or my rec or whatever it may be, and kind of just figured out what I liked best. And then when I got towards, closer to high school, I started kind of narrowing it down. Like, all right, so what am I best at? What am I most skilled at? Let's see how far we can take this. And kind of came down to basketball and football around sophomore year of high school, and obviously ended up taking the football route, and pretty glad that I did.
Well, let's talk about the football route. At what point did you start to excel? And then maybe you and your family talking about that you had a potential for playing on the next level, playing in college as a way to maybe pay for your schooling.
Yeah, I would say probably the tipping point, or the kind of the point where I had an idea that I might be able to take this further, and on a collegiate level was I started going to a few of these camps, a few football camps around Atlanta first, and just kind of hearing word of mouth, from athletes that I looked up to, and and so I go to I go to a few camps, and and I found myself, doing pretty well at them and winning, like, best wide receiver, best tight end, whatever it may be. And I was like, all right, shoot, I think I got a chance at the next level, if I keep this up. And so that's kind of like the point where I realized, like, okay, I'm pretty good at football. I think I could do something with this, and ended up taking that to a whole nother to the next level by going to, like, specific college camps, and eventually earning my first offer, which turned into a few more. And so I was very grateful to have those. And so it was just kind of this exponential effect. The more the more I learned, the more I got better at the sport, the more um, reward that I got from it. So
But coming out of such a small high school, you almost had to showcase yourself at these camps, I would assume. What was your high school football program like?
it was we had a couple good years. We had one year where we went to the final state championship. Um, we actually lost that game, unfortunately, but we had a cool, good couple of years going. And but the football was good. Like, the coaches there were great, and they pushed me and made me a better person. Um, and so, that was kind of my drawing point, to choose. Like, I had a couple options to choose where I wanted to go to high school. And seeing some of the coaches there, and how they push their athletes, and have a certain reputation, really made me want to go to Landmark. And but yeah, it just kind of just started with that. And ended up um, you know getting better and better, and eventually, earning, like I said, those first few offers, which led to more and more. And um, eventually led to Vanderbilt. So
Well, I was going to ask you, we hear so often that guys coming up who have potential will almost look around for the best high school situation for themselves. Did you ever consider, you said you had a choice of some high schools, but did you ever consider some of the bigger high schools? I know in the Atlanta metro area, some of those schools like a Grayson or Archer, those are huge schools with probably 1,000 kids, I guess, per class. But did you ever consider those football factories, if you will, those bigger schools?
yeah, I definitely considered it, because I knew, like, they were producing a lot of D1 athletes. Every senior class was just, heading to D1 schools just like that. And so that was tempting to I think in my situation, and kind of my family situation, we live in a certain area where I think it would have had, me and my sisters, and or my whole family, I would have had to move or something like that to actually, qualify to go to a certain high school. But long story short, my mom actually ended up getting a job at Landmark, which is the high school that I eventually went to. So that really helped out with kind of the pay, and just kind of like the overall convenience factor. So that's kind of a big, deciding factor that went into that.
No, I certainly understand that. But besides Vanderbilt, what other schools were looking at you or were you considering before you made your decision?
You know, I had, I had about, 9 or 10 offers total. And but some few small schools and a few bigger schools. I was being looked at by, a few big time schools as well. The SEC, Auburn and Georgia Tech, and a few schools like that. But Vanderbilt was the offer on the line. And I went to camp up in Nashville. I think it was junior year, or going into junior year that summer of high school. And just really loved Nashville, and just really loved the school, and the coaches, coaching staff, and just the way they ran the program. And just fell in love with Vanderbilt as a whole. And So that's kind of what led me to choose Vandy.
No pressures from your dad with his Auburn connections back in the day.
No, not a whole lot. He definitely he definitely made it a hard decision with the temptation of going to Auburn, every other weekend, just to see a ball game or just to go. Growing up is a big tradition to go over there quite often. Plus, my older sister went there, so I was over in Auburn quite a bit. So
I was going to say, where you grew up. It probably wasn't that far of a drive. Only a couple of hours, I'd assume.
not even, yeah, it's probably maybe an hour and a half or something like that. So
Yeah.
very convenient.
Well, what coach recruited you at Vanderbilt? Who was your recruiting coach?
Well, Coach Jerry Godowski, he was also conveniently the tight ends coach at the time, and so he recruited me under Coach Mason. Coach Mason was there the whole time I was there, and but yeah, he recruited me and coached the tight ends for the first year, and there's a few coaching changes throughout the 4 years I was there, but yeah, I love that guy, man. He was a good dude. He was a good dude.
Was part of your decision making obviously the athletics, obviously the academics in the city of Nashville? It's to me, it's the total package as far as the SEC. But how much, if any, did your desire to continue doing your arts, whether it was music or whatever it was, did any of that factor into your decision making to go to Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I would say that was a big factor. I coming out of high school, I was really involved in the music and um, a little bit of film at the time, but mostly music and just knowing Nashville, Music City is just that's a big part of Nashville and um, you know the I guess looking back now, I can say that I was pretty right about being able to meet connections and friends and really cool people out in Nashville, and so it was really a blessing for me to um, hang out with really cool people and really talented people in Nashville. So to kind of just you know have a musical background um, and just the love of getting out and just going to see a concert anytime. I think that was kind of a no-brainer when it came to deciding Vanderbilt was the school for me.
Yeah, I did not and still do not have the musical background that obviously that you do, but of course I enjoy music of many sorts. And I remember going to concerts at the Ryman and at Opry, Grand Ole Opry out at the, oh, it's changed names several times. What's the amphitheater? Um,
Um,
I don't know what it's currently.
Bridgestone.
I
Uh,
guess, well, Bridgestone Arena, yeah, but they're the amphitheater outside, right outside of town. It'll come to me in a minute, but it's changed names several times, different
is
sponsorship.
it Ascend maybe? I'm
I
not
don't know what
totally
it's
sure.
called now. And if any of you folks who are watching can know what it's called now, that would be a great help. But I just
I'm
remember
terrible.
seeing concerts out there over the years. And you're right, Nashville. I don't know of any other city that's as put together and has so much unique music that comes together like that. And I'm not just talking about what's down Broadway in that area, but it's all over. It has been for
Yeah.
many decades. But Sam, going from so much, I know Atlanta Metro is obviously one of the bigger cities in the country, but you lived in a smaller community. And then going up to Nashville and getting thrown right in the middle of campus, big, huge city. Was the transition from high school to college, was it typically a typical freshman transition where it was rough on you physically from a football standpoint or mentally, psychologically, or were you able to transition pretty well, pretty easily?
Um, that's a good question. Yeah, I feel like it was a good mix. I don't think anybody's first day on once they step foot on campus, I don't think it's going to be an easy ride, going forward. But for me, I like specifically my teammates. I came in with a great class and a great team. Therefore, and um, everybody kind of seemed to welcome me and welcome us, and it was really kind of it made it a whole lot easier just to get to know the guys and to kind of mesh in, and it was kind of smooth sailing ever since. But yeah, it was it's never going to be a smooth path. It's going to be some rocks, some dirt on the road. But it was a good ride overall.
Who was in your recruiting class?
Well, we had I think we had like 15 or 16 guys total. But I'm sure you're aware of Kyle Schumer, Josh Smith, Jair George, Josh Crawford. I'm missing a bunch of people, but
Okay.
but yeah, there's like 15 guys.
That's it.
Jared Pinkney.
I knew that your class was a little bit smaller than the average class of signees. There's a lot of talent in that class, obviously with Kyle and with Pickney and some others. But when you came in, what positions were they having you to learn, and where were you in the depth chart and those kind of things?
So I came in kind of a confusing story, but I came in I was recruited as a tight end, but they ended up moving me to wide receiver that freshman year. But the plan was to, early in camp, they planned on redshirting me so I could, get an extra year under my belt and, and that whole redshirt thing. But halfway through the season, they needed me to step up and play wide receiver. So that first game was against Florida down in the swamp, and so I ended up playing wide receiver that freshman year, and but then sophomore year they moved me back to tight end, and put some weight on me and bulked me up, and but yeah, been playing tight end since then, and played a little long snapper on the side as well, and but yeah, that was kind of the story. Kind of started out with wide receiver. I've always been quick on the feet and had good hands. So they thought that might have been a good move, and so I enjoyed it. I like playing wide receiver. Create mismatches and go up against some of the smaller DBs, and it was a lot of fun. But since then I love tight end as well. So.
Well, that's great. Do you remember those first few plays, first huddles in Florida for your first collegiate action? Did you appreciate the fact that you're in front of 85, 90,000 people, or were you really focused on what the task at hand was?
To say that I was not aware that they were there would be a lie. I mean, like it was pretty insane just seeing, from bottom to top, just packed full of people. And but the funny thing is though, like you would think that it would be so loud to your ears that you can't hear anything, which is true, but I could heir my heart beating louder than the fans screaming. Like it was just that moment, first few plays, and just adrenaline going, and but it was it was already an intense game, from the start as well. So that added to the factor as well. But man, it was definitely, nothing like it, back, my last play since then was in high school, on a high school level field. So, that transition going to a stadium like Florida was pretty insane.
Did you have any targets, any balls thrown your way that day?
So I had, let's see, I believe actually the last game of the play, it was a tight game. I think we had a bunch of penalties that game, and we were backed up. It was like we were down by like 3 or 7 or something like that by one possession game, and we're backed up a little bit, and I think it's 4th down and long, and Johnny McCrary at the time's playing quarterback, and I think it's like I'm running a corner route, and he's scrolling around, and then he gets some pressure, so he scrambles out to the side of the field and kind of throws a bomb. But I think it's across his body, so it can't quite get it to my direction where I'm going. So I have to kind of cut back a little bit and really eventually just reach just shy of the first down. But I'm going up and catching the ball and getting hit as I'm catching it, which still catch. But I'm looking at the first down, which is like 1 yard away, and I'm like, no, it was. But it was exciting to catch my first ball, but man, I would have killed for that 1 extra yard or so.
If I remember correctly, I think Florida was in the top 10 that day, and they needed a late field goal, like with 2 or 3 minutes to go, to win the game. I want to say it was like 10-7 or 9-7, something like that.
Yeah.
What a initiation into college football right there.
Right.
Now, as a freshman, where did you guys live your freshman year? Where on campus?
We stayed at what they call the Commons, and it's a newer facility. I guess it's been around a few years, but it was pretty cool. I liked it, for the most part. I was blessed to stay in like one of the newer dorms, Stanbaugh. So I mean, I liked it. It was a little like freshman community where nobody but freshmen, so you kind of got to meet some new faces every day, and it was a little more connected that way, so it was cool.
Did you have roommates or suite mates, or did you live alone?
Yeah, I had a couple roommates. Kyle Schumer was one of them, and then Winston Guillory was the other. So it was they had us backed up in like a triple corner suite, which was kind of packed, looking back on it, but it it did the job.
You survived that freshman year.
Yeah, I'm still alive.
Well, when you weren't knee deep in football your freshman year, you're getting adjusted academically, and then I'm sure you had very little spare free time. But what did you guys do? Where'd you go? I know you used to go out to the lake and do fun stuff like that. But what were some good getaways when you weren't bogged down with academics or with football?
Honestly, yeah, the lake was kind of my favorite spot over at Percy Priest, and cliff jumping was a big thing that I loved to do. But that, and just going to concerts, and at the time I had a motorcycle that I would ride around on and just kind of take my mind off things, just go cruising down the street and see what I could find. And man, it was cool though. I mean, like, especially weekends, just thinking back, like summertime and springtime, where it was a little less load as far as football goes, I guess, as far as like film room study goes. But so there's a little bit more free time in the summer, and so it was nice to be able to just go hang out with a group of friends, or go to the lake, like I said, just whatever we felt like doing, I guess.
Were the coaches aware that you had a bike on campus?
I don't think they were at first, but I think they slowly became aware over time. Yeah.
Did that become an issue? Meaning, did they start to put some clamps down on you about when you could ride? Or did they
I don't think. I think the only thing that came up was they started. I used to ride without. I used to ride with flip flops on, and which was, I guess I see the reason they might be concerned about that, but I think they, once they found out about that, they saw me riding down the street with like sandals on. They were like, what is he doing? So I think the next day, like, Coach Mason addressed the team like, all right, no more sandals or flip flops when you're riding a scooter or motorcycle, whatever. Like, just always wear tennis shoes. So I think that was really the big thing that came up.
Yeah, and I'm sure about 30 of those heads turned at you about that same time.
Yeah, they'll turn their heads like, it wasn't me. Like,
That's funny. That's funny. Well, did you stay on campus for each of your summers, or did you come back home, or did you go do other travels?
yeah, I stayed on campus. Usually most of the guys had like summer work or internships and stuff. And I think the first two years, 2 summers, I had classes, and I think the second of the going into sophomore year, I had like an internship. But yeah, just stayed at home. We all have I guess the month of May off. That's really like the month that all football players get off all year round. So I do go home for the month of May, and but then come right back up for summer workouts and all that.
Well, when you were able to get away from campus during the school term and maybe get downtown or go to some of the places where you enjoyed music, where were some of your favorite places to either go listen or to collab with folks or make music?
Um, Man, I mean I always liked Bridgestone Arena. Bridgestone was like the um, big um, big arena that all my favorite bands used to come and play there, and that was like the big venue that I like going to. But there was a few like smaller venues that I like going to, and for music, and the names are slipping my mind right now. But they're all over the place, and but as far as the hangout and stuff, just man, there's really, like, I guess just wherever you were at the time, there was really never a one spot. I think it was just kind of, hey, let's go see this concert. Let's go hang out at this spot, and um, um, you know, talk music or whatever it may be. But there's really no specific spot that I can remember that we used to gather.
Did you ever find your way near right off of campus called Exit In? Did you ever go there to either listen to music or hang out?
I've been there a couple times, yeah. But yeah, not too often actually. But yeah, I've definitely been there once or twice and thought it was really cool.
I don't know how popular it is now, but when I was in school, that was one of the big venues, local, small. When I say big, popular for the Vanderbilt guys. Plus, it was only 2 or 3 blocks from the Carmichael Towers where most of us lived.
Oh yeah.
Well, Sam, let's go back on the field. I want you to take us to your sophomore year against that team from Knoxville. You had a pretty big moment in that game, senior night in Nashville. Take us to that game and what was going on for you during that.
Yeah, so that game was yeah, like you said, it was a pretty big game for me. I believe Tennessee needed one more win to clinch their way to the Sugar Bowl, I believe, um, and so they came to our house, and they had a few scores up on us. I believe it was like 24-7 or something like that, and going into the second half, and um, but I got in there and ended up, it was kind of funny because all week of practice, we had this one play specifically, which was man, I can't even remember. I think they called it a choice. The whole play, I can't even remember the play, but I had basically a choice route where I could basically pick a certain, or see a certain read and run to wherever whether it's man to man or zone or whatever, and so. But every time in practice that week, Kyle would throw to the other side of the field, like I think it was to Darius Sims or somebody like that, and so going into this one play, I was like, well, ball's probably not going to be thrown my way because it wasn't thrown my way all week, so I'll go in there on my route, and sure enough, I get to 10 yards, turn around, there's the ball in the air, and it's coming my way. I'm like, oh shoot, there it is. That's what it looks like. And so, I catch it, I grab it, and I'm like, well, I better run at this point. And so I run about 20 or so yards and get a touchdown and contribute to to the scoreboard, and that along with a series of other plays by a few other of my teammates just really carried the momentum going into the second half, and eventually carried us with a W that night, and got us that bowl eligibility. So that was a really fun experience. That was a really great night for me and the team.
I was going to say for many reasons, on many levels, that was a great game, and I remember that game. And it was a great picture that you sent to me that I posted. I guess it's right when you were scoring that touchdown. I guess that was a very cool moment. One I know you'll cherish for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I'm talking with Sam Dobbs. We're running through some games and some memories and all kind of different things. Sam's sharing about his experience being a Commodore, and we've got a couple more minutes. And Sam, I appreciate you spending some time with us so far tonight, and thank you for sharing some of your experiences. I want to talk about, from an academic standpoint, what was it about from academics? Did it take you a while to get adjusted? Were you able to fit in academically pretty quickly? What was that like?
Man, Vanderbilt's, there's definitely no lie about it being a challenging school. There's a reason that it's what, number 14th in the nation or something like that, something crazy like that. And so it's no doubt that it's a challenging school. So, but coming from a really challenging, academic background, I was able to have that discipline coming into college, and kind of, I've always known how to work hard, whether I whether I don't understand the concept or not, I'm still working hard. I'm still turning the papers in on time, whatever you want to call it. But definitely coming into Vanderbilt was a challenge. Academically, it was I to add to that though, I started out, I was really passionate about, like, obviously music and kind of like the behind the scenes work of like amplification and sound, and like how things are amplified, and just kind of like the hardware development on that side of things. So I ended up starting my academic career out in electrical engineering, and so that was kind of like those first few classes. I think my first class was a class called computer science, which was pretty much all coding, which I enjoyed. I think it was, to this day, I'll still say it was probably my most beneficial class, because it really just opened my mind up to computers and how they work and stuff like that. And but man, like those next few classes after that was some of the most challenging classes of my life. Like there was no question that those were really tough to get through. So I got through a few of them, but then, come spring of, I think it was, spring of my sophomore year. So about a year and a half through, engineering courses, I decided, well, let's just do something a little bit more up my alley, just a little bit, something I'm more passionate about. And so I chose film or cinema and media arts is what they call it. And man, that was one of the best decisions I ever made in college. Like that was a real game changer. I was able to really just not only excel in that, but also to just really love what I'm doing. Whether it, like the homework would be like just go out and make a film. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. I can do that for sure. So, things like that. It was just right up my alley.
I was going to say, Sam, that's what college is all about. You just find your passions and then get into that lane and then just explore it to the fullest. And I think that's what you were able to do. I want to pivot for just a minute. We got about 2 or 3 more minutes, but I want to ask you about your roommate, your freshman roommate, Kyle Schumer. He set all kind of records. He was such a leader on the field, but as Dwayne Jones just asked, why he was just underappreciated, I think, and just didn't get as much publicity as maybe some of the other quarterbacks at that time who were coming through. But you had an insider's view of getting to play with him for those years. But what was it about his abilities? Either was it his command in the huddle, his command of the plays, being the son of a coach, or just pure athleticism, or maybe it was a combination of all those things. But what did you see that made him special?
Kyle, I mean, he was a hard worker. He was, you would see him out in the field every day, just, getting his extra work in. And, obviously, the love of the game. He, growing up in um, an athletic family and, with his dad being a coach most of his life. And, you could tell immediately he's just got knowledge of the game. And so he was really smart, on and off the field. So, and it was really cool to be able to room with him and, kind of, go back and forth with plays and just talk football whenever I had a question or something, or he, had a comment or something that we saw on film that day, or, little things like that. But yeah, he was a good quarterback. Like he just, he was one of those guys that really didn't complain a whole lot. He just, showed up and did the work. So I think that's really a great quality to have, in a quarterback or whatever position. So I think, as far as being underappreciated, I think, I don't know. I mean, playing at a school like Vanderbilt might have had an effect on that. Vanderbilt's the last few years at least has been kind of rebuilding years, and I think Kyle kind of had a lot of weight in his shoulders to lead the team to victory. So definitely not an easy job being quarterback at at Vanderbilt in the SEC. So he definitely props to him for doing what he did.
Well, his DNA certainly was built in, just who his dad is and his probably the experiences that he had as a kid. And I'm sure he's going to make a very fine coach whenever he decides that that's his route. But I do want to ask you before we get out of here, you played for Coach Mason during your years at Vanderbilt and had a couple, I think, two different bowl teams. I know that in 16 you went to the Independence Bowl, and then in 18 went to the Texas Bowl. But I was going to ask you, what was it like being in the big conference room where you guys all got together when they had the bowl announcements, and just being able to as a team celebrate that announcement, knowing that you're going to get to play in the postseason? What was that like?
It was I'm trying to think back to the first announcement for that first bowl game. I do remember the second one, but I'm just trying to think of the first one and see if I remember that. It just doesn't ring a bell, I guess. I guess we just kind of, I don't know if it was told to us as a group at one time, or it was just kind of word of mouth over time. I just can't remember specifically on that one. But my junior year, though, was it junior year?
Senior,
yeah, senior year. Yeah, that's right. Texas Bowl. That was during that announcement was after a practice in December, I believe. It was if I remember correctly. But we were all gathered up in the huddle and stuff, and it was just kind of like we would hear word of mouth, like, a couple teams going to this bowl game, a couple teams going to that. Like, it was always like, Vanderbilt was always on the list, but we were just ready to, like, and eager to hear, like, where we were going. And so finally just coach gathered us after practice and let us know we were going to that the Texas Bowl. And that was just an exciting moment. Like, it was just it was really cool just to hear that, you know, after having a rough season the season before and not being able to go to a bowl game, but to bounce back and then hearing like, oh, we're going to the Texas Bowl, that's big time, you know, to play in NRG Stadium and all that kind of stuff. It was fun.
Have you ever seen a running back have such a big game than Keyshawn had in that Texas Bowl game?
No, I haven't. He had an incredible game. Like he definitely you know, he carried the team on his back that game. Like that was an incredible game for him.
Now he's got one more game to win this weekend at Green Bay. He could be going to a Super Bowl at home in Tampa Bay. That's pretty cool for him.
Pretty insane. Yeah, just going from, you know, one team to the next, and it's hard to believe. Like I was popping pads with him just a couple of years ago, you know.
Right. That's right. Well, Sam, I appreciate you taking some time tonight and sharing your story and some of your great memories with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really love the show you got going, and it was a lot of fun getting to know you and chatting football, and you know, it was great being on here.
Well, thank you. I may have to hit you up after this and get some tips from you. Maybe we can make this spice it up a little bit, make it.
I'd be glad to help you out.
as we do every Thursday night. It's Conversations with Commodores. We've got a whole bunch more folks lined up over the upcoming week. So thank you all for tuning in on Thursday night, and just continue to be safe. Keep it down.